Rolling.
It's my pleasure today to introduce Rowena McNulty. I'm Jim Merritt. I was the president of Friends of Island Beach a long time ago and been a long time member. But it's great to do this lecture series that we've been involved with. And it's so good to have Rowena here. Rowena's been around the area for a while, and the last couple of years has been doing a research project all on her own along the bay shore, monitoring the erosion along the bay shore. To do that, she's paddled her kayak along, I guess, the whole shore of Island Beach, and probably lots of other places too. And Rowena describes New Jersey as the canary in the coal mine, which I think is a good way to put it, because we have certainly lots of problems here in the state, and if we can work on these, because we've got lots of people here too, we get the help, and with organizations like Friends of Island Beach, maybe they can be helpful and work with Rowena and lots of other people. Rowena will share with us today some slides and some pictures of some of the areas that Friends of Island Beach have been working on too, including a portion of an area that we restored, or we helped to restore anyway. And I hope that project is going to work out. So without further ado, Rowena McNulty.
Thanks, Jim.
You're welcome.
Much appreciated. Hello, everybody. My name is Rowena McNulty, as Jim has so beautifully pointed out. I'm very lucky to have had this opportunity to do this work. I'm here to tell you about basically two reasons how it all began. So about 2 or 3 years ago, I wanted to learn more information about the New Jersey environment. I've been involved in the New Jersey environmental issues my entire life, but I'm not an expert, I'm not a scientist, I'm not a researcher, just my passion. So I was online researching it, and I found out that Rutgers does this class called the Rutgers Environmental Stewards. And it's similar to the Rutgers Master Gardener program. And what it does is you have to promise to take this class. It lasts for 4 months, it's once a week, and it's a 3 hours class online. The information is presented by Rutgers professors and researchers. The information was astounding. It was so fascinating, the things I learned in those 3 hours for those 4 months. But as you can imagine, there's also an awful lot to take in. So I'm taking this project, I finished the classwork, and after you finish the classwork, you're obligated to do some kind of volunteer project. That's part of the program. And you can do anything where your passion is. If anyone has some time to come on up and peruse the table, here's an example of some of the projects that were done, and they're varied, and they're all throughout the entire state. So some people did pollinator gardens, for example. Some people did things with food waste. Some people did things with their municipalities and education. So the projects were really varied. So I've got this project to do. That's fact number one, what I wanted to tell you about how I got involved. Second thing about myself is I'm a volunteer over the Nature Center. I work with Kelly Scott. I've been doing that for about 3 years now. I love the work. I've learned an awful lot through the various people I've met, including some of the audience we have in front of us, like Jim Merritt and Bill, have also taught me quite a bit about what's happening in the park, and I really enjoy it. So Kelly was telling me about the erosion problems at the park. She specifically named Tidal Pond Trail, which is right across from Swim Area 1. And she told me, I believe it's been in the last 7 years, I believe, the actual trail has fallen into the bay 3 times. They've had to move it back, keep going further east because of the erosion problems in that particular area. So that was really amazing to me. So I decided to go take a walk and take all the different trails. There's 5 of them, I believe, on the bayside that are fantastic trails. And if you have not done the trails, I really recommend you do. They're beautiful maritime forests, incredible ecosystems, great birding, great butterflies, etc. So I did the Tidal Pond Trail. I also walked it with Bill at one point, and the erosion is crazy. It just happened again. I think it was last year or a year and a half ago where they had to move it again. And what they've done, which is fascinating, some of the people from Friends and some of the other volunteers have come up with a solution, they hope, and this is what Jim was referring to in the opening. They have went to local restaurants and they asked them to donate their garbage shells, so like their mussels, their clams, their oysters, etc., from their customers that come, and they donated them to us, and these gentlemen and a lot of other volunteers put them in these metal cages, and then the metal cages were placed on the shoreline. And that shoreline is now, hopefully, going to create more land, more living land. Every time there's a high tide, more organic matter gets dropped, and hopefully that'll increase the shoreline even more. I don't know if Bill or Jim would like to add to that description in any way? About the shells and then?
Yeah, we loaded the shells into nylon shell bags, not metal, which will deteriorate over time. But we're hoping that to put a living shoreline on top of it to hold it in place and to grow it, like mussels, clams, oysters out there. Make it a real living shoreline.
That's awesome. So that's an example of things we can do to help the erosion problem. There's much work to be done on the whole shoreline. So after realizing that, I asked Kelly, and then I spoke to Jen, the superintendent, and I asked them for permission for my project. And what it is I went out and bought a GPS, Garmin GPS. Yes, it was expensive, and volunteers are not supposed to spend their own money. However, this toy is really fun, and I'm really enjoying it, so I'm gonna keep it. And as Jim said, I literally went from the north down to the south, and sometimes went in the middle. I didn't do it in a straight line, but I dropped GPS points all along the shoreline. And what that will do is it'll give us a baseline of data of where the erosion was or where it stopped in 2025, because that's when they did the project. So the goal is, say in 2 years from now, someone does it again, and we could see how far the shoreline has eroded again, or perhaps in some of these shorelines that we're building up, how it's gained. So we'll have some really good data for future grants, because this stuff all costs money. So in order to get the money, we need to write grants to the federal government, to any kind of agency that would give us money to fix the erosion, so that we don't lose our beautiful island. So those are the two reasons how the project began. Before I go on to actually the slideshow, one thing I do want to make sure everyone understands, as I said, this Rutgers class I took, I am just a citizen, I'm not a scientist. So the facts I'm showing you, I learned at the class, but I'm sure there might be scientists in the audience that know a lot more, and I'm always eager to get any more information you would like to share if you don't mind. Okay, I also want to point out, here's the Rutgers Environmental Stewards website. If you go on it, there's been hundreds of us, and the projects that have been accomplished are tremendous, so I do encourage you to check it out. And over here I do have a table of display things. I am going to be showing some of them as I talk today. This was the end result of the project I did and has all the information in it. I do encourage anyone to pick up one of these. If you are interested in seeing the map, there is a QR code in there, on here, and that is a map of the entire 10 miles and all the GPS points. Also, here's just something about Rutgers Environmental Stewards again. And over there, I'm not sure if people are going to be able to see it, but those are photos of the work that was actually done, the kayaking, the walking, the trails, and you can actually see in a lot of those photos how terrible the erosion is on many points on the island. Okay. We are the canary in the coal mine. We're in trouble. Let's talk about that. We're having trouble with this clicker, so I might have to do it manually. Let's see. Oh, that's not working. I'll just do it manually. So, the word sea level rise, please pay attention to those words. We're going to be talking about that the entire time. We are going twice as fast as the global average. Pretty scary when you think about that. And there are a number of reasons why. The Atlantic Ocean is heating up quicker than other waterways. New Jersey is actually sinking. Our wetlands and our native species that basically hold the land together are disappearing. Much like the roots on a hill of a tree, if you take down that tree, that whole hill is going to fall. So that's one of the things we're worried about happening here. So again, here are the facts. I'm not a scientist. This is one of the things I learned. Not only is our water just getting warmer, We are also having a problem because of wind patterns. The wind patterns are changing, and they're bringing the warm air inland instead of out. So that's another reason why the water is warming up. The problem with warming up water is hot water is more dense than colder water, so it takes up more space. So think about that. If the temperature is rising, it's also rising as far as height. New Jersey is sinking. Again, not a scientist, so I'm not sure I quite understand all of this, but it is based on our glaciers. We are rebounding, is what they're calling it. Parts of our land are shrinking and sinking, and parts of our land are rising. Also, some of the fresh water we're taking out of the land is also excavates the sinking as well. We are not the only area where this is happening, but New Jersey is one of the prime areas. It's also happening a great deal on Long Island. Okay, talked about this already as well. The flora is disappearing, really, really important. Where what's coming in are like phragmites and cattails, and those are not good for migration or nesting or any of the things that our migrating birds and species need. While they will hold the land intact, they're not really what we need. So now, New Jersey has a much higher baseline. So again, think about it. The water is warmer, taking up more space. So 20 years ago, the sea level might have been 2 feet lower, just because it's warmer and it takes up more space. So now every time there's a full moon, we get flooding. Just normal tidal fluctuations, and we get flooding. My sister-in-law lives down in Seaside Park, on the bayside, right by where the farmer's market is. And if you know, that area on the bayside flooded every single full moon. Any storm, forget about it. Sometimes it's 2 feet high. I've seen people kayaking on that road. So we all know how badly it's flooding. Oh, I want to point out the bullet in number 2. That's a biggie. The water table is changing. So down in Cape May, they're already experiencing that. Salt water is inundating their freshwater drinking supply. So they're already dealing with that. Think about the expense of that. Another thing that's pretty scary to think about is the water rises. Think about septics. There are quite a few houses still around the shore that has septics, and if the water rises, just imagine what a nightmare that could be. So sea level is really important, the sea level rise. It affects everything, everything. It affects erosion, our lakes, our aquifers, our streams, our wetlands, and our water table. That's just to name a few. So now erosion and flooding are having a big economic impact. And unfortunately, I believe, and I think a lot of us believe, that the way to get to address this is to talk about money. Because when you talk about money in the economy, that's when people start really changing things. So let's talk money. Residents, beautiful homes along the shore, being destroyed, being flooded often. People's electric grids are being flooded. It's a very big problem, and the erosion things to repair them and fix these problems are very expensive. So all of that costs money. So what we do is really going to be a model for the rest of the world, how we deal with it. It's coming, whether we like it or not. So it's how we deal with it that really matters. Here's our beautiful park. That's the 10 miles. We are one of the last sustaining places that has 10 miles of continuous shoreline like this, with the maritime forest intact on the eastern seaboard. And now I'm going to just basically show you some of the work. Now there's the GPS, the QR code I told you about that's in the brochure. Please refrain from doing it now so I can get through the pictures, but I'll put this back up so you can take a look at it and see the different points. It was a lot of fun. And in fact, Jim, who's also in our audience again, helped me with the kayak at one point. We did about 5 miles together. So I had a lot of volunteers help me through this project. I didn't do it on my own. My husband Vince, that's in the back, he put in like 20 hours just him. So my kids did about 8 hours each. So a lot of people helped with the project. Starting in the north, Reed's Point Trail. Look at that. That's crazy. That's not right at the trail. That's where, if you walk a little bit further south, that's what you start seeing. That's at least 6 feet. Tidal Pond Trail. The shells are already there at this point, but I am in the hole and the shells are coming to my left at this point. But I wanted to show you how severe the drop-off was from erosion. Again, that's the one that's across from Swim Area 1. Beautiful little trail. Fisherman's Walkway. This is something I mentioned earlier. There are a group of gentlemen that are affiliated with a bird association, I'm sorry, I don't remember which one, that come every year to tag birds. And they told me, they're older, one of them's probably at least in his 80s, and he told me he's been coming since the 70s. And when he did this work starting in 1972, I think was the actual year, he said, this walkway was 60 feet further west. 60 feet since 1970. Think about that. What's coming? And we didn't even really know that. So that's, again, in my opinion, one of the importance of this baseline, of this GPS, because now we will know exactly how far that land is moving. Here's A15, first kayak launch. That's one of the first shacks. That's what it looked like when I did the project. You can see the effort to try and sustain the land there. They have done some work on this, which I will get to. And then here's the southern part of the island. Here's the Sedge Islands. Beautiful, as we all know. One of the most beautiful places in the world, in my opinion. So what can we do? I know I'm in the group here as a bunch of environmentalists, so I know we're all very busy doing as much as we can, but I do share this presentation with a lot of people, so I want to let people know there are things we all can do, and even us who are very involved in environmental issues, we forget, so sometimes a little reminder is a good idea. Reduce your carbon footprint. I've always wanted an electric vehicle, something I've wanted for a long time. However, now when I might be in the market for buying a car somewhere in the future. I'm not so sure anymore because of all the stuff they're talking about with the batteries and the disposal of them. So that's a bit controversial. One of the things I try and do is not use single-use items. That's something we all can do. Not get the laundry bucket of liquid. It's a single-use item that just goes right in the garbage, that plastic. So things like that we can do. Protect your ecosystems, stay off the dunes. I've actually got to the point where I start telling people if I see them on the dunes to get off. And I tell them I'm an official at the park. Because they can't be on the dunes. They can't let a dog go on the dunes, period. That's it, end of story. And if they want to listen to you, I'd be happy to tell them why. And I usually try and start, but they don't always want to listen. But even in your home, plant native species. Like I planted a bunch of milkweed this year. Those are very simple things that we can all do. Your voice matters. Show up. Go to meetings. Speak up. Tell people. It really does make a difference. Even if you convince or educate one person, that's one person who might educate one other person, etc. Be proactive. You know it's coming, as we said. There's no doubt about it. So get ready. Teach people. Talk about it. And do what we can. Educate. Spread the facts. Special thanks, Bill, Jim, you mentioned up there. These are all the many people who helped me with the project. I have a lot of thanks to a lot of people, and Kelly and Jen for supporting me. I mean, they took a risk in supporting this work, and now that it's out there publicly, it was a bit of a risk for them, so I do appreciate that very much. And then here are just a couple of photos, again, from the north to the south. This is the northern end. I don't know who put that flag there. Been there for a couple years now. This is near the governor's house. This is the rack line you see where the debris is. That's where you measure basically where the water and the land meet, where the rack line is. W-R-A-C-K. Excuse me. Tidal Pond Trail. This is the shell bags we were talking about earlier. See, pretty clever, right? See how they're in the water? And again, look at that terrible cliff. You can see why they did the work. That is happening rapidly and throughout the island. Between kayak launches. And here's those teas we were talking about that they put. I mentioned I would share that in a bit. where they, the one shack was that I showed you in the slideshow, where they had the rocks up trying to prevent the erosion. This is what they've done right next to that now. Jen, I guess, did that. That was a government grant. Does anybody know how that was funded? A government grant. Again, money. This probably cost a lot of money. These are very heavy rocks. There's 3 of them. They call them the T's. It's either 3 or 4, I forget which. And the idea is the same as the shells, that in between the T's, they will be able to, land will start to grow. And every time it's a full tide, nutrients will fall, etc. And that's how the land will grow. The things you see on this side here are in between the T's, those round structures. And you can see the rocks are in something, some kind of nylon as well. That's the southern end. So beautiful down there. You can see the lighthouse on the other side. Okay. I also would like to show you a couple of other things that are a little scary. These are some facts. You can get this anywhere on the internet. It's not just Rutgers. Pretty much every college out there has some researchers talking about it. Check that out. Look at that projection. That is very, very alarming to me. Think of where sea level is. All the homes are basically at sea level right now. So the projections are quite high. Here's another look at it. And again, you can get all kinds of these kind of data and charts from a plethora of different websites, including the DEP, and they all vary a bit, but they're all pretty similar. So think of our kids, the generations to come, what's going to happen if we don't take action now. And here is the map. I like to do it this way, I think it's kind of cool. You can kind of see every single one of those is a GPS point. So you can see the work that was done in the 10 miles and went all the way up. So that is my presentation. That is the project I worked on. I hope you enjoyed the presentation. I hope it made sense. If anyone has any questions, Kelly has my contact information. I want to thank everybody once again for all their help. Thank Rutgers. Without this could not have been done. Rutgers, they were terrific. And as I said, if you really want to learn more information about the New Jersey environment, take this class. The teachers and the professors were phenomenal. So thank you very much.
I have a comment.
Please.
Rowena, you did a tremendous amount of work with this. I mean, you look at all those points, and I know you had help at different times, but you did the lion's share of this by yourself. And I think the most important thing that I would take away from here is that there's so many people who really love this park. Friends of Island Beach is a great, great example, who would be willing to help. And the perfect example is, I mean, we spent time this past spring bagging those shells when it was really cold, and then moving heavy shell bags and shoveling. A lot of people came out to do this, and that was sort of grunt work. That wasn't even fun. This is fun. Going along the coast like I did with you was a great day, and I just wondered if you're going to continue in the future, how are you going to follow up with this? And a corollary to that is, do you need people who can help you with this? And I think for organizations like Paddle for the Edge is an example of something that people are doing. Would that be something that you're going to continue in the future, and how could other people help you with that?
Great comments and great questions. Thanks, Jim. Yes, I would like to do something further. I was in touch with Paddle for the Edge, and I think it is really important that we follow up. So how that looks, I'm not quite sure, but I'm willing to discuss it with anyone who's willing to talk about it with me, because I do think it's really important work. And like you said, there are volunteers, and we did have a fun day. Kayaking along the bay is a very fun way to spend your afternoon. So yeah, we should follow up, and we'll work on that. Thank you for bringing that up. Anybody else have a comment or an idea? Suggestion?
Yeah, I want to add something.
Great.
Thank you for your work.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you for all that.
Yes. A round of applause.
My name is Bill Dwyer. I've been a member of the Friends for quite a while, and we do quite a lot of work on the beach, and we set up projects. But in the past couple years, we've been focusing on the bayside. And it's really important, and it's really in trouble. We've been joining with our partners, Barnegat Bay Partnership, Reclaim the Bay, Save Barnegat Bay, and others. And we are going to join as a team to focus on the Bay Area. But as Rowena said, we have to go to the public. We have to talk to our friends, our neighbors, anyone. And unfortunately, it's going to cost a lot of money. So we've got to talk to our friends, our neighbors, businesses, corporations to donate. It's tax deductible because we're going to need a lot of money. At Tidal Pond, the shells, we had to buy most of them, and the project cost $10,000. Now the living shoreline at A15, or the kayak launch, cost over $200,000. So we need to raise money. So talk to your friends and join the Friends of Island Beach. You can go on our website, just Google Friends of Island Beach, and it'll come up, and get involved. We have fun too, most of the time. There is some grunt work, but there's a lot of other things. As Rowena said, you can monitor what's going on, the shape of things to come. So anyway, thanks friends, and hope to see you at our next lecture. We have 3 more, and they're great, every Sunday from here through March. Thanks.